Hey everyone, this is Kristen from KristenCoaching.com. Thank you so much for joining me for this video today. And the topic of this video is to talk about how emotional empathy creates a healthy relationship. And before we dive into it, where I explain what emotional empathy is and how it benefits a healthy relationship, I want to remind you all to please subscribe to my YouTube page if you haven't already, because you will get notified every time I send out a video related to helpful tips on how to have a happy and healthy relationship. So make sure you do that if you haven't already. So what is empathy? We'll start with empathy first, and then we'll get into emotional empathy. So empathy basically is just your ability to be able to relate to someone else's emotions and understand what they are going through. And this is a really critical part of being able to do this in a relationship, because you are in a partnership, right? You're in a relationship with somebody else. It's not just you in a vacuum and nobody else is affected in your life. You are sharing your life with another half. So it's really important that you are able to understand what your other half is going through, especially during, not only happy times, but hard times as well. So you'll be able to know what to do and how to respond appropriately. So there's different levels of empathy. So we kind of just did the broad umbrella of empathy just now. And the most common levels of empathy in a relationship are cognitive and emotional. And both are great to have because, again, it is the ability to relate to somebody else's feelings and emotions. But cognitive empathy is basically just an intellectual understanding of what your other half or your spouse or boyfriend or girlfriend are going through. So it's just a way to really understand. That way you can validate their experience and they feel heard. So it's great to have that. It's definitely fine if you have cognitive empathy only. In my opinion, I think emotional empathy is kind of one step further. It's not only the ability to understand what your partner is going through, but it's the ability to feel their emotions. And I think that's so powerful because you can relate to them on a deeper level and feel how they're feeling so you can best respond to their needs. It's a way to not bring your own personal bias into the mix. And because by doing that, it can create like a muck almost. If you put your own personal biases and opinions in there when you're trying to be empathetic, that can create a lot of, hardships and rifts because somebody else at the same time needs you to be empathetic for them, right? So having emotional empathy really kind of takes you away from your headspace and into theirs. And then it's kind of like two people working as one to be able to kind of solve the problem. So basically, if you are unable to be empathetic, especially in a relationship, that can cause a lot of stress and anxiety and challenges because either you or your partner are not feeling understood by the other person and you're not feeling validated. Personally, in my experience with my spouse, we argue a lot. A lot of relationships argue, and that can be healthy and normal. It's how you argue is the key. And I noticed that when we have our arguments, and this goes both ways, when we are both feeling understood and heard by our other halves, it really takes this defenses that we're feeling and this anger down a whole bunch, because once you feel heard and validated, that's half the battle right there. Actually, it's probably the majority of the battle. You just want your other half to just understand how you're feeling. And then once they do that, then you're able to come to a resolution, the conclusion together and figure out, how your other half can be supportive of you so you can feel happier. So I think luckily our ability to be empathetic early on in our relationship has really been amazing and a huge strength for us. Now, empathy does not come naturally for a lot of people and a lot of couples. And so one way to be empathetic is to practice. And how do you do that? I think the first start of learning how to be empathetic is to give undivided attention to your significant other when they are talking to you. I have another video related on how to give undivided attention to your significant other. So I definitely suggest you watch that, because if you practice those skills, then the next step of after undivided attention is being able to be empathetic, essentially. But you have to be focused, you have to listen intently, and you have to be able to just understand and relate to what they're going through, even if you don't agree. Again, arguments happen, and it usually is because there's two separate opinions. And again, that is okay. In relationships, you're not going to always come to a middle and an agreement. That doesn't necessarily happen. I think in most arguments, what's most important is that the other person understands how you are feeling. And that's half the battle. It's a way of getting on the same page and relating to one another. So there are ways to practice emotional empathy. I think it's important for you to ask yourself, do you have that in your relationship? If not, figure out ways that you can practice that and start building that essential relationship skill to have, because that's really, really important. Please feel free to comment below, ask me any questions. I'll be happy to answer them. And I will see you next time for my next video on healthy relationship tips. Take care, guys. Bye.